Welcome everybody to the reading from the anthology Building Socialism, Fighting Fascism, the anthology of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade of San Francisco. I ask you please at the very beginning now to mute yourselves until your name is called. That is, please mute yourselves because then we will have absolutely clear sound reception. Okay, fine. Thanks to particular comrades who supported the publication of this work, especially co-host Elizabeth Bailey, Manaz Badihian, Gregory Pond, and Diego DeLeo. I'm going to, and also thanks to the co-editors, well, Elizabeth Bailey and John Curl, our co-editors, and myself. Thanks to Agneta Falk and Scott Bird for working on the visuals in the work, and for Manaz Badian, Aggie did the front cover image, and Aggie and Manaz Badian did the back cover image. There is also black and white visuals inside the anthology. Now, we're going to begin, and the reason we called it at 1 o'clock is that people are living in other parts of the world. So I'm going to call the folks to read first. I'm going to call actually Bengt Berg to read first. Bengt Berg, to say a few words about him. Bengt Berg is a Swedish poet and activist who's published 40 books, mostly of poetry, which have been translated into many languages. He was a member of the Swedish Parliament from 2010 to 2014, representing the Left Party. Please welcome Bengt Berg.
Many thanks. I'm happy to be with you tonight, friends, compañeros, and I will read in my Scandinavian language, Swedish, and Aggie Falk will read English version. I suppose that you don't know Swedish, everybody.
That's true.
De nödvändiga frågorna. Aggie?
The essential questions.
När hon säger vi, säger du det.
When she says, we say you, them.
När hon säger sång, säger du marsch.
When she says song, you say march.
När hon säger regnbåge, säger du bunker.
When she says rainbow, you say bunker.
När hon säger sol och gryning, säger du nattmörker.
When she says sun and dawn, you say darkness of night.
När hon säger att det är möjligt att respektera också svaghet, säger du att det bara finns plats för dem som är starka.
When she says it's possible to also respect weakness, you say there is only a place for those who are strong.
När hon frågar sig själv var den stora glädjen finns, säger du att den finns i natten, i svarta mörkret.
When she asks herself where the big joy exists, you say it can be found in the night, in the black darkness.
När hon frågar var du hittar detta mörker, säger du att det kommer av sig själv.
When she asks, where do you find this darkness? You say, it happens by itself.
När hon frågar hur det är möjligt, svarar du att det måste vara möjligt, för annars skulle inte fascismen vara möjlig.
When she asks how it's possible, you answer, it has to be, possible. Otherwise, how would fascism be possible?
Hon frågar vem det är som gör fascismen möjlig och hon får inget svar. Men vi vet svaret. Kapitalet, det som aldrig skulle riskera sina privilegier för några ynka människors skull. Det pågår hela tiden en normalisering av landningsbanan. Manegen krattas medan orättvisorna djupnar. Arbetslösheten och rekryteringen till den underjordiska källaren bara fortsätter. Intet är nytt under solen.
She asks, who makes fascism possible? And she gets no answer. But we know the answer. Capital. Those who never would give up their privileges for some wretched people's sake. It goes on all the time. A normalization, like a landing strip, setting the stage while injustices deepens and unemployment and recruitment in secret cellars just continue. Nothing new under the sun.
Men det finns motstånd, mod, beslutsamhet och det som vill ta kampen. Bara så blir människan människa, genom att vara människa.
But there is resistance, courage, determination by those who want to take the fight on. A human being becomes a human being by being a human being.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you,
Bravo.
Bengt. Thank you, Bengt.
Thank you, Aggie, for wonderful translation.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to hear from Sandro Sardella and his translator, Lapo Guzzini. Sandro Sardella is a poet and painter from Varese in northern Italy. His poetry and his poems are innovated by the experience of factory work and the political and avant-garde movements of the 1960s and 70s. He read his poems at the 2012 San Francisco International Poetry Festival. Lapo Guzzini is a San Francisco-based translator, editor, and arts agitator. Until 2015, he ran the Emerald Tablet, an independent cultural venue. He's translated the poems of Sandro Sardella and Sandro Spinazzi in the issue. Please welcome Sandro and Lapo. Sandro first.
Well, thank you. Capriccio, antifa, discanto. Perché non muore il fuoco? Pablo Neruda. 1. Ho fame di vento. Siedo all'aperto, abbracciato al mio silenzio. Ma può esserci vergogna nell'ascoltare? Ma ci può essere vergogna nel tacere? Non sento le corse e le risate. Sento la rivolta sul viso. Ai piedi del muro la bocca sa di terra. Cammina nella luna la voce di Ma Rainey in 130 kg di blues. Scioglie la brina dalla mia testa. Mi tolgo le ragnatele dalla mia faccia. Nel velo opaco che avvolge la pianura s'agitano strappi di luce. E puoi chiedere dell'asfissia di George Floyd. Puoi chiedere delle ali di Giuseppe Pinelli. Puoi chiedere delle scarpe rosse di Luisa Di Rosi. Puoi chiedere del fuoco gettato nel campo Rom. Puoi chiedere dell'acqua del mare che ci accusa. Puoi chiedere della lotta per la dignità del lavoro. Puoi chiedere dell'io per sostenere il noi. Puoi chiedere dei morti giornalieri per l'insolente affarismo padronale. Puoi chiedere delle persone nella fame delle strade. Puoi chiedere della paura, dell'odio per lo straniero. Puoi chiedere dei colpi che gonfiano il mio cuore. Pietre, volti, maschere, numeri, baciami, nel paese intossicato di ricchezza, papaveri rossi smarriti, ballano nelle mie mani. 2. E io che nel sapore acro del sentire mi lascio cullare dalla dub poetry di Linton Kwesi Johnson, dove pulsano reggae e poesia accompagnandomi in un navigare a vista, per una rivolta al saccheggio dell'avvenire, alla logica del profitto sempre, all'abisso dell'ineguaglianza, allo spettacolo dell'arroganza, alla strage silenziosa delle api. Nei bordi del cielo che sfumano, illuminati dal primo sole, io chiudo il pugno e alzo il medio. Un gioioso rumore sfiora la storia. Ai margini tra erbacce e pattume è tutto un proliferare, un ondeggiare di fiori viola, di fiori gialli, bianchi e blu. Cammino con lo sguardo di Spartaco, nei sotterranei della storia. Alzo il medio e chiudo il pugno.
Bravo.
Thank you. And thank you, Lapo.
Lapo.
In English now. Antifa whimsy descant. Because the fire does not die. Pablo Neruda. 1. Hungry for the wind, I sit outdoors, clinging to my silence. But there might be shame in listening, but there might be shame in remaining silent. I don't hear the laughter and the races. I feel rebellion on my face. At the feet of the wall, I taste dirt in my mouth. Maureen's voice walks on the moon in 290 pounds of blues, melting the frost in my head. I tear the cobwebs up my face in the opaque veil enveloping the plains. Scratches of light fidget, and you might ask about George Floyd's asphyxiation. You might ask about Giuseppe Pinelli's wings. You might ask about Louisa and Rose's red shoes. You might ask about the fire thrown onto Roma encampments. You might ask about the seawater accusing us. You might ask about the struggle for dignity in labor. You might ask about the me that supports we. You might ask about those dying daily for the brazen profiteering of bosses. You might ask after people in the hunger of the streets. You might ask about the fear, the hatred of foreigners. You might ask about these blows that pummel my heart. Stones, faces, masks, numbers. Kiss me in this country drunk on riches. Lost red poppies are dancing in my hands. 2. And in the acrid taste of feeling, I let myself be cradled by the dub poetry of Linton Kwesi Johnson, where reggae and poetry pulse, taking me on a celestial navigation into a revolt against the sacking of tomorrow, the logic of profit always, the abyss of inequality, the spectacle of arrogance, the silent genocide of bees. In the fading edges of the sky, illuminated by the first light, I clench my fist and raise my middle. A joyful noise brushes history at the margins between weeds and garbage. It's all a burgeoning, an undulating of purple flowers, yellow, white, blue flowers. I walk with Spartacus' gaze through the cellars of history. I raise my middle and clench my fist.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo, bravo.
Grazie, grazie.
Grazie.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, grazie Lapo.
Grazie, Lapo, grazie.
Now we're going to hear from Luis Felipe Sarimento, born in 1956 in Lisbon, poet, journalist, translator, and film director. He's published over 30 books of poetry, fiction, and essays. Some of his books have been translated into 14 languages. And actually, he's been honored this year as the celebration for 45 years of activity and poetry and activity. Welcome. And his translator is Denny Borges. Or he is not the translator, but he is a reader of the poem in English. So welcome, Luis Felipe and Denny.
Thank you, Jack. I read first in Portuguese, then Denny read in English. Thank you. Refugia-te na tua consciência, sem cruzes nem crescentes, sem arames nem muros, sem farpas nem ódios, e logo reconhecerás entre as multidões de andarilhos que perpassam a tua memória os teus ascendentes vindos de longe que te fizeram nascer aqui. De onde vens? A que caverna original pertences? Que línguas navegam nos mares e nos rios do teu sangue? Quantos deuses adoraste, pedindo e esperando que o futuro não fosse este presente? Onde estão as divinas respostas? Refugia-te na tua consciência, sem o medo que os sacerdotes do poder oculto te querem impor, nem a angústia do sonho destruído. Observa a renovação do mar, a regeneração do planeta, a cada ataque inconsciente dos loucos, e logo verás o poder das entranhas deste grandioso globo, como se fosse uma cabeça que pensa que a possibilidade da derrota é a impossibilidade da vida e faz renascer em todo o esplendor o mapa colorido do que na realidade somos. Refugia-te na tua consciência como anfitrião do futuro e não temas os deuses, eles que são divinos, que se entendam longe desta terra, e abra as portas do teu humilde casebre, como se fosse um palácio contra a morte e contra a babélica imagem do fim. Thank you.
Ay, bravo, bravo. Bravo. Denise?
Here it goes. It's kind of hard to top that one in Portuguese. It sounds much better, I can tell you that. The poem by Luis. Take refuge in your conscience, without crosses or crescents, without wires or walls, without barbs or hatreds, and you will soon recognize among the crowds of wonders that penetrate your memory your ancestors from afar, who gave birth to you here. Where did you come from? To which original cave do you belong? What languages sail the seas and rivers of your blood? How many gods did you worship, asking and hoping that the future would not be this present? Where are the divine answers? Take refuge in your conscience without the fear that the priests of a hidden power want to impose on you, nor the anguish of the destroyed dream. Observe the renewal of the sea, the regeneration of the planet, every unconscious attack of the madman, and you will see the power of the bowels of this magnificent globe, as if it were your head that thinks the possibility of defeat is the impossibility of life, and makes it reborn in all its splendor, the colorful map of what we really are. Take refuge in your conscience as a host of the future, and do not fear the gods who are divine and who understand each other far from this earth. And open the doors of your humble hovel as if it were a palace against death and against the chaotic image of the end.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you very much.
Bravo. Now, we're going to hear that one poem. Let me say it this way. We started at 1 o'clock, so because people in Europe and in India, it's different times there. And now we're going to have a poem from Amit Dahiyavad. Come in, please, Amit.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh, my poem is dedicated to my parents, who were both freedom fighters, and I thought this poem is suitable for your theme today.
Mhm.
The poem is called Whose Republic? My friends believe that there should be a law against two freedom fighters marrying each other, because then this is what you get. Can you still hear me clearly?
Yes.
The poem is called Whose Republic? One by one, turn by turn, the cat and the bat and the crow and the rat have taken my city. One by one, turn by turn, the cat and the bat and the crow and the rat have taken my city. Insomnia rules the night, and fear of the siren and the flasher rule the day. And that broad promised highway into the future is taken up by the motorcades of the politician, the shaker and mover, the power broker, the wheeler dealer, the spin doctor, the trouble fruiter, leaving only a tiny lane for we the people to navigate our way precariously ahead. In 70 years, we the people have been broken and tamed. The have-nots have been bought with false promises. The haves have been bought with tax loopholes. The middle class is ritually slitting its own throat upon the sharp edge of the credit card. And the last of the freedom fighters are breathing bravely on life support systems. And we, the children of the freedom fighters, are doubly damned and doubly doomed. We have not learned to look the other way or turn the other cheek. So shoot me thrice when my time comes. Once in the gut to balance the pain of so much hunger and unequal living. Once in the heart, where it was a fickle thing and always too easily broken. And once in the head, for always thinking the impossible and dying to make it happen. Thank you very much.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gracias.
Now, those are the poems from other countries, as it were, but there will be also a poem that I would like read by Barbara Paschke, who translated a poem of Fernando Rendon, who is the founding member of the World Poetry Movement, of which I am a member, and so is Agneta Falk. And Barbara, and he's also the organizer with Gloria Fatal and his family, his son, of one of the greatest poetry festivals, the annual festival in Medellin, Colombia. And he's also a marvelous poet. So welcome, Barbara, who's going to translate his work.
Okay, so I read it the Spanish first?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. El hombre que lee tranquilo. El hombre que lee tranquilo esta mañana en las orillas del lago Huanquiam en Hanoi en tiempos de paz, sabe que bajo sus rizadas aguas duerme la espada de Le Loire, que hizo retroceder a los conquistadores en un tiempo difícil para el país. Lo sabe también el templo de la Montana de Jade, la dulce anciana que me ofrece sonriendo a mi paso una naranja amarilla como un pequeño sol. Sabe que los Han, los Jemeres, los mongoles y los japoneses ya se fueron y que los chinos que ocuparon sus tierras por 1000 años no regresarán. El hombre silencioso que habló esta noche en la Galería de Arte de la capital recuerda que un guerrillero vietnamita fue abatido por un tiro de pistola en un ocupante francés junto al muro de la casa de sus padres en la aldea Chua, donde los sembradores de arroz escriben poesía. El pescador arrojó ayer su anzuelo al estanque en espera de un pez. Preserva en su memoria aquel mediodía de abril, cuando Le Van Huang derribó con su tanque la puerta del palacio de Sagán, mientras caían del cielo racimos de asesinos que intentaban huir en helicópteros. Entonces los habitantes del norte y el del sur, separados por el enemigo, pudieron cruzar el puente de Yuanlong para abrazarse de nuevo y poner fin a su dolor. De esta manera pudo reconstruirse el país. La sangre derramada permanece en la memoria, pues ha llegado al mundo para permanecer en él. Sobre la piedra viva se erige la imagen de los siglos, pero el mundo no aprende la lección. Todavía no cree que puede terminar la pesadilla. El mundo escucha de nuevo al corazón alado. Con siglos de horror se paga el nihilismo. Un pueblo atraviesa los siglos para hablarte. Su leyenda circula sin cesar las arterias del gran cuerpo. Como el vivir no se olvida nunca el lenguaje de los libres, respira mucho más hondo que la muerte. Una nueva lengua reconquistará las posiciones perdidas. La siembra de colores se restaura con la sangre del sacrificio de los pueblos. Si el amor pudo reconstituir tantos desastres, así mismo recobrará en su antiguo esplendor el universo. The man who calmly reads. The man who calmly reads this morning on the banks of Lake Hoan Kiem in Hanoi in peaceful times knows that beneath its wavy waters sleeps the sword of Leilua, who made the conquerors retreat during a difficult time for the country. He also knows the Jade Mountain Temple, the sweet old woman who, smiling as I walked by, offered me a yellow orange like a little sun, knows that the Han, the Khmer, the Mongolians, and the Japanese are already gone, and that the Chinese who occupied these lands for 1,000 years will not return. The quiet man who spoke tonight in the Capitol's art gallery remembers that a Vietnamese soldier was taken down by a gunshot from a French occupier next to the wall of his parents' house in the town of Choix, where the rice farmers write poetry. The fisherman yesterday cast his hook into the pond, hoping for a fish. He keeps the memory of that April midday when Le Van Phuong with his tank demolished the gate of the presidential palace of Saigon, while from the sky fell clusters of assassins who intended to flee in helicopters. Then the residents of the North and the South, separated by the enemy, could cross the bridge of Hien Luang to again embrace and put an end to their sorrow. In this way, the country could rebuild itself. The blood spilled remains in the memory, and it has come to the world to remain here. Atop the living stone, the image of the centuries is raised, but the world doesn't learn the lesson. It still doesn't believe that it can end the nightmare. Dear world, listen again to the soaring heart. Nihilism pays the price with centuries of horror. People cross the centuries to speak to you. Its tale endlessly circulates in the arteries of the great body. As it lives, it never forgets the words of the free. It breathes much more deeply than death. A new language will take back the lost locations. The planting of colors will be restored with the blood of the people's sacrifice. If love can reconstruct so many disasters, in the same way, the universe can recover its ancient splendor. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara, by the way, is a member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade of San Francisco and also the Roque Dalton Cultural Brigade. And her work has most recently appeared in Resistencia, Poems of Protest and Revolution. And she translated Fernando's poem and also Carmen Naranjo in this anthology. And also another point, Luis Felipe Sarmento's poem was translated by Scott Edward Anderson. He was the translator of the poem. Now we are going now to call on the poets from within San Francisco and the United States who will be reading from their work in the anthology. But I would call first from a couple of poets from different brigades. The Chicago Brigade, I'm calling Lou Rosenbaum to read his work. Lou, let me just say a word about you here, if you would, for all the others. Lou Rosenbaum is, here we go. Lou Rosenbaum is a Chicago-based poet, writer, cultural worker, former bookseller, board member of the Guild Literary Complex, part of the revolutionary movement for 50 years, and a founding member of the League of Revolutionaries for a New America, as well as a member of the Chicago-based Revolutionary Poets Brigade. Lou Rosenbaum.
Thank you all. It's a real honor to be able to read along with so many wonderful poets. So thank you for the privilege. My poem is called What the Ghosts Tell Us. And I will just tell you before I read this poem that this very morning, or two mornings ago, my grandson was arrested by the Chicago police. What the ghosts tell us. Dinner at the Barrick Rosenbaum Cafe. Ghosts sitting at our table. Diana stares through me. Brain fog settles between us. Hers or mine, I can't determine with my caliper. She can't focus, she tells me. No wonder, I say. Grandchildren caught by the claws of the dragonist court system. Children floundering at the ocean bottom of debt. And all around us, all friends of friends, all Briannas and Georges and Adams by other names. Ghosts sitting at our table. Wraiths of American fascist violence. The dispassionate dispatch of the bullet drives hot through the body, unlike the cold steel of a Pythagorean theorem. The frozen, steady, steely fingers scraping the bottom of my pockets, throttling any future of shelter and food at the dinner table. It is all very personal. I see every one of my grandchildren fleeing from police down Chicago back alleys. Blood pours from their wounds next to us. Keening, we sing praises to the millions taking the streets as if they were taking them back from the forcemen of the apocalypse. Still, the assault accelerates, but what else is there for us to do? If we don't fight for our right to survive, confront the police terror, perceive how the cop's baton enforces the terror of hunger, of not having a roof over our heads, of dying for lack of medicine, terror inflicted on us by a corporate state unyielding in its murderosity, its profligate, cavernous appetite for injustice, And so we sit with ghosts at the dinner table, shaken every day. They nod skeletally at us. They tell us we own the future, warn us, drown terror in an embarrassment of red carnations, overwhelm starvation. They challenge us to seize this choice for our destiny, become fully human, end planetary fascist destruction. Thank you.
Right. Bravo, 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 Lou. Let me just tell you, your sound was coming in choppily at times. So could I ask everybody who was not muted himself or herself, please mute yourselves right now. But enough of that poem really came through that indicated it was a great poem. Okay. And also from the Chicago Brigade, let's welcome Elizabeth Marino. She's a Chicago poet and educator and an RPB Chicago member. Her poetry collections include the full-length Asylum and chapbooks, Ceremonies and Debris. She is a Pushcart Prize nominee. Welcome, Elizabeth. Elizabeth? Oh, I saw her earlier.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh.
I'm having to go to
ahead.
my phone. My computer was in and out, so I had to transfer to the phone. So hopefully people
Okay.
can hear me. We had a tornado.
Yes, we can. We can.
You know, of all the things that
Go
happened
ahead.
today. This piece, I've played with it a few times, but there are so many voices around us. And this is called a stew for two voices. And if you could bear with me, I'm going to share with you some of the voices that I heard coming into myself and my place alongside my poems. Our mayor goes, our young people have been dealing with trauma for a long time. The FOP police president says, you are aware of the chaos currently affecting our city on a regular basis, in a letter to his president. Confronted with rioters. Black Lives Matter is a hate group. The use of deadly force is entirely justified. The officers were afraid they could do nothing else. The Chicago Police Department, as part of and empowered by the community, is committed to protect the lives, property, and rights of all people, to maintain order, and to enforce the law impartially. A split-second decision is very difficult. The child's gun was empty. Stew for two voices. Every time is a little different. Dry red beans instead of black, tossed into the cold pot mornings at the first urge for stew. Add a cup of cold water, come back early afternoon for little plump ones. Add boxed organic vegetable stock. Turn on pot, high. Drizzle a good olive oil into your fry pan. Heat. Chop 2 fresh garlic cloves, a small white onion. Add to the hot oil. Stir till brown and fragrant with your best wooden spoon. Cube your nice plump pork butt steak. Stir all till browned. Season the pan or the pot. It's up to you. Fold into pot. 1 or 2 grinds, fresh black pepper, sea salt to taste, and blood pressure. A full dash of adobo mix, the urban pilon medicine. Grab the bell peppers, green, red, cube a slice from each. Grab a fistful of green beans, trim, add, eyeball a small green zucchini, slice, stir, and let simmer till beans are soft, then simmer low some more. The child's gun was empty.
Right.
Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Thank you, Elizabeth. Now we're going to hear from another brigade member. This brigade member is the Albuquerque Brigade of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Bill Nevins is born in 1947, moved to New Mexico in 1996. He's a poet, a reporter for national publications, a retired educator, a member of the National Writers Union, the New Mexico State Poetry Society, and the Revolutionary Poets Brigade. Bill Nevins.
Thanks, Jack. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay. I'll only introduce this by saying that a few years ago, Robbie Mirapol came to Albuquerque to enlighten us and speak about the Rosenberg Fund for Children. And I highly recommend people look into that great organization. So this poem is called Rosenberg Angel Poem in Blue, A Death Reserved, Eros and Dust. It's for Abel and Robbie and Michael Mirapol. Starts with a quote from Richard Farina. It was the red, white, and blue marching down on the poor, blind mother justice on a pile of manure. Say your prayers and the Pledge of Allegiance every night. Tomorrow, you'll be feeling all right. It was a Sunday potluck at Albuquerque Peace and Justice Center when a gray one asked who the FBI's here might be. Robbie smiled, talked instead about children's playtime, glee, his job, you see, the charity. And he's that kind of guy, avuncular, bald, kind, bemused. Was it really just all about scaring Jews? Did Hiss really pumpkin spy? Did Venona shake you up? Why'd your uncle lie and let your mama die? Did you both cry? You seem so calm. Why? Was it bad then, like now? How did you keep faith? Who do you believe? Were your folks naive? Did Joe Stalin deceive? Was it hard to be a famous son? Did you young guys ever have any fun? Rocking slowly on his heels, polite son of proper Ethel, he waxed agnostic on the riddles, dodged the well-meant gaffes, but rose gently to his bait. It's worse now, sure. They only took the Bill of Rights away then from communists, subversives, conspirators, blacks, and bad Jews. Yes, in those days, cookie days, 77 Sunset Strip, stop combing your hair, man, and kiss me days, Fulton J. Sheen, starving, hysterical, naked days, duck and cover, Lenny Bruce, Leroy Jones, right in Paris, out of reach, Mailer naked and the dead on the beach, Paul Robeson, Old Man, Moon River, just keeps rolling along, House Un-American, J. Edgar Hoover's, Tutu Blues, activity screams in Pleasantville before the color washed in. Giant ants in the sewers and Godzilla, Rodan, body snatcher days. Madeline Murray O'Hare, for God's sake, days. Yet Howdy Doody had Flubadub and Buffalo Bob to hold him tight, and Batman had Robin, and Sky King had his decoder ring to save us all from Stalin's power. And some sharp stiff in a suit led 3 lies for all our own safety, but still we worried. Yet Milton Berle, that funny good Jew, and others good ones walked free. And the USA saved them from evildoers too. On TV, Roy Cohn and that judge were good ones too, though Jews you never knew, did you? Back then, of course, the country killed only traitor spies and their wives who wouldn't talk. Father, mother. These days they say all of us, Jew or not, black or not, Arab or not, Christian or not, socialist or not, good or not, talk or not, must give up constitutional niceties, liberal vanities for security, since the world changed after all. But we'll be okay if we're good enough. Conspiracy runs through every waking day, and television dreams jar us awake. 24 dirty bomb in LA, psycho Saudis with box cutters in our showers. Don't sleep too sound. You could wake up dead. You're either with us or you're with them, with terror. Terror. Juneteenth, 53. I was 5 and loved my daddy, who kept me safe and who loved Joe McCarthy, Catholic and Irish too, on our boxy TV. He's against our enemies, Billy. He doesn't hold back. Patton should have pushed to Moscow, and McCarthy should have bombed Peking. Victory at sea. Dad's pals burned up on carrier decks. The smoke must have smelled so bad before Christmas in Hawaii, that day of infamy. And I saw his picture in his Navy suit with a big black eye, smiling. He never pulled a punch, my old man. So Dad explained Chinese torture, drip, drip, drip. Enemies all about, nails pulled out like the Iroquois did to the Jesuits, or Korea War snow and blood, snake pits, Russian roulette like Chris Walken and De Niro later on. Too true, too Hollywood true. Jap death march, baton lessons, give them a bayonet in the gut like this, Bill. He showed me the drill. Thrust, twist, kill with a kitchen mop. So I grew up scared, but Robbie smiled that day at the good old P&J, all those long years now past. And I felt brave and safe now at last, as I once did in the Blessed Virgin's blue embrace. Meryl Streep overdid Mama's accent. Still, she was great. And Pacino nailed Cohn like Christ in that 2 Public Execution, and Mel Gibson's blockbuster Passion of the Christ. Conspiracy and passion was the charge against the Rosenbergs, not treason, not giving Russia the bomb. 2 people passionately talking. Conspiracy in the eyes of Roy Cohn and the law. They fried her for unflinching love, passion, and him for discipline, loyalty, staying true to his comrades, his beliefs, to his living love. As Wystan Auden advised September 39, when the big war loomed, love one another or die. Those tender comrades stood together in separate cells, cold time dripping till that fast, hot shock hit their heart. Smoke rose from their skulls, private faith in public view, godless believers in what they knew to be true in the long march of history, her story, his, theirs, and ours. The good people's lawyer in his fedora held their son's little hands in the newspaper shots, protected the kids when he could, yet the headlines crowed, "Your mama, your papa are dead." First time in America, a family was wiped out lawfully, not just lynched, and in cold public view, in cold blood too. Justice Douglas, good man and true, tried to stay their death shocks but failed. Supremely overruled. History happens and then you die. Yet of late it is said Saddam Hussein, that awful man, and his horrid sons did horrible things as moms and dads watched their kids tormented, as children watch their chained parents writhe and could never touch them again, ever again. Orphans. Jesus wept while his dad watched silent, so they say. Abu Ghraib, Gitmo, all those backwater swamps where they dragged the accused to the tree limbs of the gallant CSA, now risen again in USA. Strange fruit Billy sang. They be Abe Mirapol, good father, gave the boys his own name to hide them from TV, press, killer eyes after June 1953. And he wrote that song for Billy, you know. He was a commie poet, too. And he wrote Old Blue Eyes, Frankie's forgotten wartime hit, The House I Live In, which goes like this. What is America to me? The house I live in, the air feeling free, the right to speak your mind out, the million lights I see, but especially the people. That's America to me. Their parents' life, lights, sparked out when the state tripped the switch. But those boys did not die, did not grow to men with sparks snapping in their hearts, who conspire in the empire, conspire to love in mad, sane, calm, raging, undying fire of mortal angels in America. Of course, some nights still, even they, with us, the less brave, might murmur dear old Whiston's lost Times Square prayer. Defenseless under the night, ironic points of light. May I, composed like them, of eros and of dust, beleaguered by the same negation and despair, show an affirming flame. Gracias.
Bravo. Bravo. Wonderful poem. Extraordinary.
Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from some of the poets in the Revolutionary Brigade here in San Francisco. Manaz Badiyan is a poet, painter, and translator. She edited an international anthology of COVID-19 poetry and art, published in 2020. Currently, she's working on the novel Gohar. Her painting is the back cover of this anthology. Please welcome Manaz Badiyan.
Thank you very much, Jack. And what a reading, so many beautiful poems. I am going to read a poem that I wrote like 2000 because of uprising in Iran. And this poem is in a book called Saplings Arise, which I translated lots of poems to Farsi, and our beloved Jack Hirschman edited that book and we published it. This poem called Mitarsam, I Despair. I'm going to read a bit of Farsi and then the whole poem in English. Mitarsam از صدای پوسیده خدایشان، از صدای الله اکبر بر سر مناره ها، بالای برج های سگانه و در جاده های خونین تهران. می ترسم از چادر سیاه و از مردانی که با ذهن‌های پوسیده رعشه بر اندام فلسفه میاندازند و چشم به عورت ما دارند. میترسم از خیابانی که از ما گرفتند، از عمامه میترسم، از ردای سیاه و از کلمه جنده در دهانشان، از کلمه کونی در حرفشان که همه بوی تهمت و مرگ میدهد. میترسم. This was part of the poem. By the way, I sent the poem earlier so you guys can follow the lines while I'm reading the English version. It is, everyone can see it. I despair. I despair of the decay of the God, of the sounds of God is great. Atop minarets, atop Trade Center, and on the bloody streets of Tehran. I despair of black chadors and the man with long beards who make philosophy tremble with their eyes on our private parts. I despair of our taken streets, of turbans, of black cloaks, and the word whore in their mouth, and the word faggot in their words, all of which smells of death. I love the flowers in the garden, who won't carry sword or clubs, who don't gossip, and whose breath smells of perfume. Fill my world with flowers and greenery, with the songs of love and freedom, of equal borders and cities of ministerials. Come play on the banks of my Zayende Road. Dance on asphalt streets, and let sun shine on the girls' tresses. I despair of the hands that put scarves on the heads of statues and the veil on the face of roses. I despair of people with grudges, of laws of jealousy with pettiness. I despair of the sounds of guns and tanks, of images of mushroom clouds, of images of burned victims on the road with no sunrise. I despair. I despair of all the sorrow in the voice of people, of so much sorrow for their homeland, of separation of roots. Let the saplings arise from their slender, unbroken roots. I despair of the wounds on my mother's breast at the time of death and her last breath in a foreign land. I despair of the harsh hands of oppression, of the hands of men who twist the neck of birds. Thank you for listening.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from Diego De Leo. Diego De Leo came to this country from Italy when he was 17, and he's 86 now. He began writing poetry 10 years after his wife died, 10 years ago. His third book has just appeared this year. Please welcome Diego De Leo. And Diego is here because he doesn't have a computer. So I'm going to just pass my computer to him so he can read. Go ahead, Diego, can you come up a little closer here? Yeah.
Or am I visible there?
Is he visible? Can you, yeah, here he is. Here he is.
Oh,
Come up a little just closer. Yeah, go ahead, Diego.
Oh, all right. Revolt. We who have lived and suffered through an oppressive fascistic government, whose officials, under the mantle of false pretense, stomp on the defenseless while enriching themselves, must now reveal that an untold number of children are going hungry, some never reaching adulthood. This is nothing short than a crime against humanity. The arms dealers and insurance companies had blood all over their hands. History tells us that some poets who spoke up against the tyrannies in their time were imprisoned. Others faced the firing squad. Now it is up to the poet who have reached the limit of tolerance to write and organize a movement of revolt with the vigor of a torrential river in order to untangle the society from the tentacles of the ever repressive growing fascism behind the racism and hatred that feed the status quo is indifference.
Bravo, bravo, Diego. Bravo, Diego. That was Diego De Leo. And next we will hear, I mentioned, I said that this was going to be the poets of the San Francisco area, but actually there are a couple more poets who I want to hear first. And that is, we'll begin with the Bill Hatch and Bill. Bill is a Northern Californian poet and translator of the poems of Roque Dalton. Please, he's a fellow translator. I've also translated the book of Roque's and very proud of that book because he was such a great poet. Bill Hatch is going to read his poem now.
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe?
Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes.
Sorry. The little icons are not telling me the truth. Penny Street sketch of the Skipper for Lawrence Ferlinghetti, 1919 to 2021. From nothing to nothing, wearing an ironic grin and a fine hat. Back straight, naval officer, the wheel at hand, the compass within, forever approaching that beach, June 6th, 1944. A break in bad weather, but not in artillery. Back straight at the wheel, into battle. There went a gent, always among us, but never quite of us. Size drew him above us. A floating fedora or fisherman's cap and an ironic grin. Steering to battle against the same old Nazis.
Bravo, bravo. Next, we'll hear from Kurt Lumpkin. He's a poet and spoken word and performing artist, lyricist, naturalist, and environmentalist, author of 2 books of poetry, In Deep and Cohering, and 2 poetry music CDs, The Word Music Continuum and Sound Poems. Musician, minister, poet, California granddaughter. Oh no,
you're running into Dvorak's.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I ran into Dvorak. I'm terribly sorry. The Word Wind Music Continent and music minister. No. Oh, that was an error in the text. Forgive me. Okay. Kurt, have your poem. Let's go. Let's hear it.
I think the thing was, Jack, is most of the bio start with the person's name, but Dvorak doesn't start with their name. And so anyway, so this is called Here. The names of flamboyant, notorious leaders with their trumped up self-importance may be remembered long after most of us. But hold on to and nourish, keep alive in our culture all that leads by living example, courageous love, compassionate intelligence, persistent caring, gratitude for all beings in the interrelated web of life. So those that come after us might inherit an inner compass, able to hold community together as it guides them through the perilous burning darkness ahead, back to these places we've called home, but have barely truly known, where the final test of survival will be learning to find sustained sustenance here within our local watersheds, here with no place else to go, here to survive, we will need to re-indigenize.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. And next we will hear from Susu Jeffrey. Grew up in the US Midwest on mashed potatoes and politics. Writes about the Roman ancestry, water issues, and whatever outrages her. Okay, Susu.
Thank you. That's gypsy ancestry that I'm writing about, Roma.
Yes.
I just want to say that Tuesday is the most normal day of the week, and it's when traffic surveys are done. Living in Minneapolis for the past year has been a real drag because we've become a third-class city. And yesterday, Chauvin got 22 years. He'll be out in 15. He's got a $300,000 tax evasion case coming up. And I mean, the guy's, he's a pig. Okay. A week after I Can't Breathe for George Floyd. In the last gasp of capitalism, contradictions confront each other. Victims struggle for breath. Victor on suicide watch, the fires. The president walks across the park cleared by flash grenades and tear gas, holding a brand new Bible for a photo op with an armed bevy of Secret Service and neckties. Will we wake up, put out the trash, pretend it's just another Tuesday?
Nice. Bravo, bravo. Thank you, bravo.
Thank
next,
you.
Next, we will hear from Lynn Barnes and some words on Lynn. Lynn Barnes is the author of the poetic memoir, Falling into Flowers, 2017, a finalist for the 2018 Eric Hoffer Book Award. Her work appears in Poets 11, Fog and Light, San Francisco to the Eyes of the Poets Who Live Here, and Light on the Walls of Life, a tribute anthology to Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Lynn Barnes. Where are you, Lenny?
Unmute, Lynn.
There we go. I said thank you to you wonderful editors and artists who put this book together. It's beautiful. This is called Oscar Daniels' Eyes, and it's about a place that's about 2 hours from where I was born in Georgia. And it has an epigraph from Adolf Hitler and a footnote. The footnote to this is that in this county, there were 1,098 Black people living in Forsyth County, Georgia, in 1912. Within a matter of months, it had dropped to 30. And the epigraph from Hitler is his gaze towards America, where he said, "There is currently one state that has made at least the weak beginnings of a better order." He said that in the 1920s. Oscar Daniels' Eyes. 59 years ago, Forsyth County, Georgia, began its purge, ripping Black people from its land by lynching, kangaroo courts, by night riders, burning homes, terrorizing, leave or die. Like an invading army, white people planted their flags on these lands. The names on the deeds were all white names after 7 years of taxes paid. Across the Atlantic, young Hitler turns 23. In this year, 1912, Azzy Crow and her family, 7-year-old Bonnie, 18-month-old Esther among them, watch Oscar Daniel slam from a scaffold, land in the air inches above their feet, dangle, strangle for 11 minutes as 5,000 witness from the arena-like hillsides around them. This Black teen was arrested, convicted too quickly, too thinly, of raping and murdering Azzy's daughter, May. His cellmate died before the trial, bullets to the body, sledgehammer to the skull by a jail-crashing mob. In 1952, Azzy revealed a memory haunting her psyche for 40 years. Oscar Daniels' boyish, innocent eyes locking with hers in those opening moments of Forsyth County's fear and hate frenzied white supremacist embrace of racial cleansing, its Jim Crow rage into a fire-scarred, rope-frayed, bullet-holed, three-dimensional, blood-soaked blueprint telegraphed across the sea and improved in unimaginable ways. Blessings to you all.
Thank you. Bravo, bravo. All right. Next we'll hear from Carol Denny. Carol Denny, some words, just a few words on Carol. Here we go. Carol Denny is a Bay Area musician, poet, and cartoonist, founder and editor of the Pepper Spray Times, and member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade. Carol?
Hello. Okay, this is called We Looked Like Flowers. We look like flowers when we were young. We look like angels, everyone. Our skin was beautiful, our eyes were bright. We sleep in doorways now, night after night, asking for handouts, no one's desire makes you so small inside, makes you so tired. Just have to roll along, whatever goes by. Wanna surrender, just wanna die. Night after night, day after day, looking for mercy to meet us halfway. They want us to leave. Where do we go? We are just people. They don't wanna know. We built all the bridges, fought all the wars. Now it's just sirens, the slamming of doors, the slamming of jail cells, again and again. Once we were soldiers, once we were workers, now we're just them. Night after night, way. They want us to leave, but where do we go? We're just people that don't want to know. They look at our clothing, they look at our shoes, our troubles and stories are yesterday's news. If we were puppies, they'd throw us a bone. If we were children, they take us all home. Well, I wish I had wings, wish I could fly, build me a home somewhere up in the sky. Nobody hates, where nobody stares, where somebody listens, where somebody cares. Night after night, day after day, looking for mercy to meet us halfway. They want us to leave. Where do we go? We are just people. They don't want to know.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo, bravo.
Makes me cry.
Next, we're going to hear from Devorah Major, who was the third poet laureate of San Francisco. She's also a novelist, an internationally touring performer, and an arts activist, and the author of 11 published books. Devorah Major.
Thank you. Okay. January 6th proclamations. This is not who we are. Newspeak pundits splice in between commercials, turning from the truth that this is indeed who many of us are. American, seditionist and murderers, racist and rioters and vandals with a history of rampages painted across the globe. Ask a hungry Haitian child who she knows Americans to be. Ask an Iraqi widow. Ask an Afghani farmer. Ask an Agent Orange deformed Vietnamese peasant who we Americans truly are. Take note of the people of the land slaughtered, Take note of the first people of the land slaughtered, the African people enslaved and tortured, Chinese people sacrificed for railroad hegemony, Japanese people imprisoned and reviled, Muslim people scorned and exiled. The list is long and has no end. This government and we, the people with all our warts and wounds, this is who we are. I cannot point fingers at everyone, but let us be clear, the aberration is not them. So do we excise this cancer or keep denying that it is part of our body while it grows more virulent, metastasizing on all of our vital organs? Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Okay. Next, we'll hear from Gregory Pond. Gregory is a member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade. And it was, Gregory was born in Brooklyn to Panamanian parents, has written 4 books of poetry, and is a member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade and facilitator of Poetically Speaking, a weekly conference program for seniors. Let's welcome Gregory Pond.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Welcome, everybody. Reconstruction Blues 2. Back in the day, after Sambo became Django, and we were legally no longer slaves, Reconstruction was dangled before us like a carrot, but we never managed to grab it, though it seemed to be inches away. After centuries of servitude, our men murdered, emasculated, our children sold, our women raped. In order to ensure our survival, we had to grin to bear the pain before we labored through the birth of a nation, feeling the pinch of derision and hate. Years after burning crosses, repeated lynchings, and Klansmen's rage. Sad to say, we're still reconstructing, still recovering after restless decades, with hell much closer than heaven, while equality got lost in space. Black woman and man made some gains, but never better than second place. Our lives continually marginalized, victims of an economic system based on power, class, and race. We're sick of singing Kumbaya. We're tired of rhyming do, re, mi, waiting for some liberty bell to toll to finally set us free, to save us from the choke of the rope, the pressure of the knee, from under the thumb or the wrong end of the gun in the hands of racist police. No more chance of we shall overcome. Now we rant, no justice, no peace. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. Next we'll hear from, for Gail Mitchell, our next poet. Words are her foundation, and making a poem is part resistance, part fury. Emmett Till sits under her breastbone. History shatters her heart, and poverty is a scathing rebuke, as she writes. It's the only way we can make sense of humanity's being inhuman. Gail Mitchell, she's listed as Gail Wilson, that's her married name. Gail Mitchell.
Actually, in the book, I'm listed as Gall Mitchell. I don't know how they got it wrong, but
Oh.
all the gall.
God. Sorry.
Photographs
Sorry,
of American. No worries, no worries. Photographs of American history to be. Not a scrapbook for children. Not photos for polite company. These photos define America. Woman running down the road naked, napalm attack in Vietnam. From a book called The Movement, 3 men, 1 woman, a group lynching. White audience gathers ready for a Sunday picnic. Young man poses for the camera, his hands resting on the shoulders of his girlfriend. Eye gouged, beaten, thrown into the Tallahatchie River, a cotton gin fan around his neck. Photo of a young boy, barely 14, in his open casket. His mother dared to let America see what they had done to her boy, Emmett. Wounded knee, me lie, sow seeds of sorrow and regret. Embracing those feelings do nothing for me. They've been replaced with unspeakable rage. Still I speak them. We have witnessed your bloodlusts, America. America, you cannot sink your sins deep enough to forget you are a bloodthirsty nation. We have seen your descendants' callous souls, unfettered by the deaths of other children dying in forced detentions, mother and fathers whose babies have been stolen. We have been broken down and remade, cast not in your image, America, but in our own. And these are the photos that help me see you as you are.
Thank you, my dear. Next, Kim Shuck is the 7th Poet Laureate of San Francisco, emerita now, and author of 8 solo books. Her most recent book is Exile Heart from That Painted Horse Press. Please welcome Kim Shuck.
Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me. Song of Extreme Winter and the Minimum Wage. No one who works a 40-hour week should live in poverty. Various. Only the strong will survive and the weak will perish. Tim Boyd, former mayor of Colorado City, Texas, as his town went into another day in blackout during freezing weather. The relics of Spencer and Malthus rattle and echo, music of disaster in a cold February. And in DC, they measure the value of lives by the wealth that they can bring to someone else. Establish an acceptable rubric of suffering, a strategy to measure worthiness. In plain language, we are each a mine. The mineral rights belong to someone else. Dry bones rattling as poet and her brother do without food, without heat, without water, in an apartment in Texas. While in DC, they argue acceptable deprivation. In Dallas, they argue degrees of cold. On the news, they argue about blame. The companies we pay for electricity owe us nothing. The elected officials owe us nothing. Our value is measured by what can still be taken. The value of a poet, debated to the rhythm of Victorian bones, rattling in a shell of community, a curio in the home of one of the super rich, empathy, another resource that has run out. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Next, we'll hear from Doreen Stock, a poet, a literary translator, and memoir artist, recently launched Bye Bye Blackbird, the Poetry Box, April 2021. Poems touching her mother's last day, and she looks toward to the publication of A Noise in the Garden, selected poems forthcoming from Kelsey Press. Doreen? Let's hear you.
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm reading a translation today from the work of Amparo Casasdelas Alcanada. I'd like to present my co-translator on screen share, Marcelo Holot, who will read the Spanish first of the poem called Fraterna Tierra.
Can we get it?
Fraterna tierra, se alzarán al fin las manos de la edad, cronológicamente desatarán el nudo de tu garganta. Hermano muerto, escupiré los látigos, hermano mío, gritaré que has vivido donde se esconde la masacre. Con tus manos presas del castigo, Fundaré las calles que bautizaron tu destierro, del eco de un vestigio de tu voz. Rescataré la libertad que hemos dormido, naciéndonos cada día, comprenderemos que nos sobran las fronteras, que desconsoladamente nos han robado los abrazos. Buenos Aires, 7 de octubre de 2004. Por Amparo Casas Bellas, Alconada.
Bravo. Bravo.
The English, Fraternal Land. In the end, the hands of our age will raise themselves date by date. Will untie the knot of your throat, my dead brother. I will spit out the lashes. I will shout that you have lived where the massacre was hidden with your hands in chains. I will found the streets that baptize your exile from the echo of a vestige of your voice. I will ransom the liberty that has been put to sleep, being born, giving birth to us each day. We shall understand that we have too many borders that have heartbreakingly stolen our embraces. Thank you. The book will come out this year.
Bravo, bravo. Okay. Next, we'll hear from David Volpendesta, who is an anarchist and a member of the Friends of Doriti, the Rocky Dalton Cultural Brigade, and the San Francisco Poets Brigade. He is the author of Forbidden Psalms and Forbidden Psalms 2, forthcoming in 2022. David?
All right, Jack. This is called Forbidden Psalm for Dead Poets. Keep a light shining in the darkness for those who can really see. Q.R. Hand, Al Young, Alfonso Texidor, and Lawrence Ferlinghetti, all of whom passed over to the other side of existence about a month ago. Did this many poets die during the Spanish Civil War? There's a mysterious text in the annals of that Civil War, but there is also a subtext as well. The earth opens its hands to those and to them, and the wind tells you to beware. Touch the water with its blue radiant robe, and hear the peaceful explosion inside of your body. The four poets who have been mentioned are invisible as they climb the mountain, whose pinnacle they will see. Don't weep for these friends. Instead, weep instead for liberty, because fascism are tearing up the alphabet, and those four aren't here to defend it. Words are turning to ashes as flesh is sliding from the bone. But the four souls of these four poets are everywhere in their house of I'm sorry, are everywhere in their hound of radiant light. Listen for them. They will know when evil is ready to strike. They know the battle isn't over. That's why they carry forward guerrilla warfare against these growling fascists. These poor poets are at your side, ready to serve you and remove the handcuffs as they can help you be free.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jack?
Thank you. Okay, next we will hear from Agneta Falk, a member of the World Poetry Movement and the San Francisco RPB. She's also a painter of international renown and is preparing her third major volume of poems for publication. She's also created, let me just note here. She's also created the cover image of the anthology and translated the poem of Benkberg. Let's welcome Agneta.
Hello, everyone. So wonderful to hear all of your voices from all over the place. My poem is a short one called The Only Weapon. And it starts with a quote from Bertolt Brecht. In the dark times, will there also be singing? Yes, there will also be singing about the dark times. My poem. Such a gift to be born, that first breath of a perfectly innocent being without a scrap of hate. Just waiting to be nourished, grow and reach for the light. One little heart, one little brain, eager to learn. What a gift to be given. What opportunity to wipe the slate clean of hatred and racial bile. To cut the umbilical cord to the murderer's past with the only weapon worth carrying, the love of other. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Next, we'll hear from Kitty Costello. Kitty, here we go. Kitty Costello's collection Upon Waking, New and Selected Poems, 1977 to 2017, gathers 40 years of her San Francisco writings. She is a co-editor of the new anthology, Muslim American Writers at Home, Stories, Essays, and Poems of Identity, Diversity, and Belonging. Kitty?
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, dear poets and artists and organizers and editors. What a righteous way to spend a Saturday afternoon in America. My poem's called Two Fighting Fascism Acrostics. So it's fighting fascism down the side of the page 2 times. Freeing ourselves from us and them ideology would be a good start. Hatred hijacks hearts. That's its craft. So let's inspect the divide carefully again. No human is bad without a backstory. Let's go deeper to the roots of wrongs. Let us feel and avert all heart hardening and attend beyond justified outrage. See and tend to whatever needs breaking without becoming shattered or cruel or gone. It's an alchemy of warrior spirit as yet unseen. Make yourself a new kind of sword. For every child born, invited or not, of whatever creed and breed, grant each one their basic needs, thwart childhood, harm, abuse, neglect, trauma that snarls itself into exponential grown-up insanity, inhumanity, doomed to repeat until none but the tone deaf can hear, good people staying thunderously silent again. Front load goodness. Bestow abundant blessings on each new self arriving here and upon their parents. Cultivate humans who know what love is and is not, and who know the sound of truth being spoken, the magic of harmony being sung.
Thank you. Bravo, bravo. Next, we'll hear from Karen Miranda Magoon. She's published 2 books against the backdrop of the pandemic, A Year of Anguish, A Time for Miracles, and The Earth Turns. Karen, she's a member of the RPB. Karen, let's hear.
Thank you, everyone, for the beautiful, strong poetry. This is an amazing, amazing afternoon here. My relatively short poem is called Refashion the World. We protest in the streets. Black lives matter. Immigrants matter. Homeless matter. In the prisons, brown and black and white do battle. Who shall matter? Who shall shatter histories of misplaced hope, scattered dreams, to piece together dream by dream, all colors of the rainbow, all life nourished on earth, that all may thrive. We protest violated lives, unredressed grievances, unmitigated loss, unanswered sorrows. We pound the earth with anger, yet she cannot help. The dreams we must refashion, thread by thread, rag by rag, until we all together fashion a new world.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo, bravo. Next, we'll hear from Bobby Coleman. He is the managing editor of Jambu Press in San Francisco, and one of the co-founders of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade. Bob Coleman, let's hear.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, my dear friends. This was inspired by those landmarks, Americus and the Fall of America. I see them as bold prayers for common sense. And so I wrote this, Why We Still Ask. Why we still ask, where is the love, the real kind of love that we give to ourselves when we're connected, when we are taught how our lives were once, before creatures lied and warred over trees, sat in the White House and stormed the Capitol, encouraged by anglers of mischief and madness. Why we still ask, where is the love? Since the new press says how the numbers roll back but merely to W's, that billionaires rock if they share a few cents, that we're losing the race, so let's get tough, that we're in a trade war and have now had enough. So we ask again, why cancel love? Why wipe out art, not even offer the class? Why turn the art room into a sty of stemful dung and racial myopia, missing the point, thumping our chests, announcing ourselves narcissogastically, and why we still ask, where is the love, is because of this. When we jilted the poet and broke her heart, when we did that, the whole simple reason for being together, for our full engagement, our knee at the altar, our exchange of rings was a lousy trick. A mask was used, an impostor was paid, a betrothal to fascism, not social love. And the only way out, since we still have to ask, is to return to the poem. Our first declaration that we love each other and will not sell the house or the house of Whitman, Emerson, and Thoreau, and will marry in truth and escape with our muse, not the fake one still there. We have 3 ushers beaming, giving proof through the night that our hearts at least, are still free. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo, bravo. Next, we'll hear from Judith Ain Bernhard. It's the author of a poetry collection, Prisoners of Culture, and a book of short stories, Marriages. She is an editor of the Andover Street Archives Press. Excuse me, Judith Ain Bernhard. Judith? Where are
I
you?
don't see her just now. She was here.
She was? Did she leave?
Yes.
I'm here.
Where are
I'm
you?
here.
Where are
Good,
you?
good.
Can you hear me now? As
Yes.
they say,
Yeah.
hear me now?
Can't see you.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, you can, wait a minute, let's get her image.
All right.
She's there.
Um,
There she
now
is.
you can see me, Lisbeth. Lisbeth. Now you
Go-
can see me.
Yes, go ahead.
All righty. Thank you all. Four Bearers, 1947. A baseball player, a Negro Leagues infielder who had faced court-martial in the Army for refusing to move to the back of a bus, became the first Black to play in the major leagues, and oh, did they torture and harass him. But Jackie Robinson never lost his dignity. 1959, a basketball player, one of the best, boycotted a game in the American South because he and other Black Minnesota Lakers were denied rooms and service. And oh, it wasn't a popular decision, but Elgin Baylor never relented. 1966, a good-looking man, a boxer, told the world he was the greatest. He was. But when he stood up for his religion, his name changed. Oh, they came down hard on him. But Muhammad Ali never wavered. 1968, 2 Olympic runners, among the fastest in the world, raised their black gloved fists in protest as the Star-Spangled Banner played. And oh, it cost them plenty. But Tommy Smith and John Carlos never recanted or backed down. Remember their names now and forever, and add the names of athletes they inspired to stand up or kneel and speak out to insist on justice no matter the consequences. Remember Arthur Ashe, Jim Brown, Larry Doby, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Bubba Wallace, Colin Kaepernick, LeBron James, and other NBA players. And WNBA players and other women athletes and players in nearly every sport around the world who wear Black Lives Matter on their shirts. Tell everyone about them.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo, Judy. Next, we'll hear from Sarah Menifee. She's a San Francisco poet and homeless movement activist. Also, she writes for the People's Tribune, a member of the League of Revolutionaries for a New America and the Revolutionary Poets Brigade. And first they came for the homeless, a group that she started. And one of her latest collections is Cement. Sarah?
Thank you, Jack, everybody, Lisbeth, all the poets. This has just been wonderful. I'm very proud to be part of this. So this is titled Cake. When people got tired of shivering in the raw spring, they moved into the warmth of the cake we were promised. And so it began. Little loaf cakes with butter icing. He had 3 stacked against his ragged chest, wending through the line, appealing madly to the blank-eyed shoppers that one might purchase them for him. I'm hard of hearing, said a hard-eyed older man, white, to the hungry guy, black. Here in the Trader Joe's at Market and Fourth, they appropriated the cakes and escorted him out. Do not let them eat cake they can't pay for. I had written the part above about entering the cake the day before I witnessed that.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo. Next, we'll hear from Christina Brown. She's a painter and poet. She often writes about what people will and will not do for love. Christina?
Thank you, Jack, and thank you, fellow poets and dear friends. This piece I'm going to read is about what people do for love and also what people do for justice. Nonviolence in 5 parts. 1. A young man runs across the screen. Smoke pours from his mouth. A canister stuck in his cheek. The images seem like grainy, black and white, until suddenly his hands, his face, his t-shirt are dyed in gray. 2. On a street where many people live, a man in a uniform, in a bulletproof vest and helmet and visor, a man dressed for combat, dressed to kill, surrounded by other men in the same equipment, saunters around the sidewalk. He pulls chemical weapons from his pocket, throws them casually as though they were softballs or carnival candies into crowds of people. First, he bombs the peaceful protesters, then the innocent bystanders, then anyone moving as far as the eye can see. White vapor pours from these bombs, looks so innocent, so non-violent, especially from a distance. But then this gas clears, reveals the victims, people lying on the ground, struggling to breathe, people vomiting, people crying, people trying to help others. 3. In Colombia, a young man runs across the screen, part of a group of peaceful protesters under attack. He is trying to escape. Suddenly, he drops, felled by a police shooter. Others run to his assistance. but he does not rise. 4. In Palestine, a young man runs across the stream, part of a group of peaceful protesters under attack. He is trying to escape. Suddenly, he drops, felled by a sniper. Others run to his assistance, but he does not rise. Another innocent killed. 5. Back in Colombia, non-binary protesters wear tank tops made of bandages. Red bursts of color mark their throats. Like flowers, like red carnations, like red poppies, or red gunshot wounds. They make visible what every peaceful protester knows, what I always remember since I first protested in Mississippi, what always gives me a frisson of fear as I prepare to march. This may be the day that I die. Sometimes you must put your life in the line of fire. I hope if I am killed, my death will inspire others to resist as I have been inspired. Thank you.
Bravo, 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 dear. All right, next we'll hear from Scott Bird. Scott Bird is a poet, a painter, and a musician in San Francisco, and the youngest member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade. His artistic work focuses on the queer experience and working class struggle. He is also the creator of the Maybird Project, www.themaybirdproject.com. He's organized the cover and artworks for this issue with Aggie Folk. Let's hear from Scott.
Thank you, Jack. And wow, so many of these poems are about flowers, and it was so great that they all came together that way, and with the cover as well. So I'm going to throw my flower into the heap, Children of a Whitman Dahlia. I am a red dahlia, a Mexican daisy growing, budding from the crown of my own head and tangle hair. You pluck the red blossom and pin it in your lapel, above the dangling Lenin broadside and proud hammer sickle swinging. We remember carnations, roses, and other red proses infinite in their strength when taped to the tip of a razor fountain pen. Fight by the cover of the dark word night, for joy is an upward struggle. A radical bow and arrow of lip and tongue flexing into smile. Fascism can only frown, its porous heart soaked and drowned in the blind glaze of power's greed, and greed's power needs only to read your lips and remember the word always. We have it within ourselves to disassemble all factions today, and in the first word of the first line of every stanza written in our poems. I, you, we, children of Whitman's best dahlia, fight fascism always. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Now, the last three readers are the three editors of this anthology. We'll begin with Elizabeth Bailey first. She's a member of the Revolutionary Poets Brigade of San Francisco and the archivist for the San Francisco Maritime National Historical Park. And she's very happy because she's retiring in this next month. So she is one, as I said, one of the editors of this anthology. Welcome, Elizabeth Bailey.
Thank you. Gonna just say what a beautiful bouquet we are. This is called Flowers of Zeus. These aren't flowers for bows, buttoneers, mothers' bouquets, doctors' altruism, or presidential luck. These flowers of Zeus rise from roots alive, underground. They are never dormant. Workers' hands and faces reddened by their labor as they scrape and scratch a living from under capitalism's thumb. Red expressions of pain before crimson rises, or like unearthed passion, compelling us to live lovingly. Carnation is a word of honor, standing for blood embodied, for remembering and celebrating the people's sacrifices. The people of Portugal toppled their capitalist city, ended the dictatorship by peaceful reincarnation. The red carnation is the joy of the Portuguese people, who are the midwives of their democracy, a community tested and now evolved. On April 25th, let's emulate the wakened power of the Portuguese people as we raise red carnations everywhere. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Okay. Penultimately, John Curl is the author of Revolutionary Alchemy, Yoga Sutras of Fidel Castro, and Ancient American Poets. His book, Indigenous Peoples Day, documents the history of the new holiday, of which he is one of the founders. He translates poetry from several indigenous languages, and of course is one of the editors and translators of this anthology. Please welcome John Curl.
Oh, thank you so much, Jack. The poem is entitled They Shall Not Pass, and it starts with a quote from Martin Luther King. Be loving enough to absorb evil and understanding enough to turn an enemy into a friend. Downtown, I walked along. A warm night, everyone out, it was bustling, women in colorful dresses, dogs sniffing each other, children hopping over the cracks in the sidewalk. Then the street collapsed at my feet. I staggered back, lampposts, vehicles, people cascading down into a vast pit, falling. They were all disappearing into darkness. I couldn't see bottom. From the shadows belched fumes and smoke. I was choking. I knew that to breathe those toxic fumes meant death. Then I awoke, shaken. They say the thoughts you have right after a dream are really part of the dream itself. I thought about my grandfather, an immigrant to America, of how his dreams collapsed into the Great Depression, fascism, World War II. Then suddenly I was downtown again. From down the block, in the middle of the street, women, men, children, a long procession, all ages and descriptions, colorfully dressed, carrying banners and signs, chanting as they paraded toward me. There were so many of them. They kept coming and coming. As they approached, I realized the signs and chants weren't in English, but sounded familiar. I'd heard that chant before, though I didn't recall from where. Then suddenly I understood the words. No pasarán, they shall not pass. It was from the Spanish Civil War of the 1930s, before World War II. It had been a rallying cry of the populace defending Madrid against Franco's fascists, brought back to America by the Abraham Lincoln Brigade and other international brigades of volunteers fighting in Spain to stop fascism before it engulfed all of Europe and the world. As the line of marchers arrived at where I stood on the edge of the sidewalk, a woman at the front handed me a sign, and without another thought, I stepped off the curb and was swept into the march. I felt exhilarated, striding side by side with them, chanting, "No pasarán, they shall not pass." Then we stopped short. The intersection was blocked by men in black military gear with helmets, shields, guns, truncheons, and behind them, a group in white robes holding banners painted with rune-like symbols. And behind those were armored vehicles and uniforms as far as I could see. I wanted to get out of there fast, but I was fixated. I couldn't move. They started towards us. Then I awoke again. I lay there a few minutes thinking about my dream. I wondered what my grandpa would think of the world now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bravo, bravo, John. Now, I am the last reader today, and I just say of myself, I'm an emeritus poet laureate of San Francisco, and my latest work is a translation from the Yiddish of Yitzhak Katzenelson, the Song of the Massacred Jewish People. My own fourth Arcanes will be published later in this year. The poem I'm going to read is called The Red Carnation Arcane. If it could be done in Portugal almost 50 years ago, the Red Carnation can stop the spread of fascism everywhere today, tomorrow. So let's get that huge jail built for the 838 hate groups, clans, and Nazis, skins, and all those who have to learn hate is not free speech. And we have to see that they spend time away from the innocence of the children they despise, the blacks who they've always terrorized, the Jews they've always lied about, the gays they've mocked, and now the Red Carnations have exposed the traitors of the working class, the police, whose betrayal is rooted and resonating to those very Klansmen and Nazis. But now enlightened understanding has the cops jailing Klansmen and Nazis and beginning to deal with neighborhoods as if they were neighbors and didn't wear hoods. And hopefully they begin to think that perhaps they'd had it all wrong defending capitalists and begin seeing blacks as their working class brothers and sisters and children in a vivid family. 2. Look at that. With all the mongers of fascist hate in the jail where they belong. Just look at that beat cop who's admiring Beulah May Dandridge's garden of red carnations in the outer mission. Why, she's even given him her watering can, and he's sprinkling the carnations with water from that sprinkler, on the side of which is written, American Ku Klux Klans, American Nazis, you're finished with murdering democracy at last. Let me just say.
You miss Carlos. You miss Carlos.
Oh, Carlos, who?
Carlos, and you miss.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed someone here. Forgive me. Wait a minute. Carlos?
Yes, I'll put Carlos on right now, and then I'll go.
Carlos and Angel. Ah,
yes,
right.
yes.
I didn't know you came
Yes.
on.
Yes, yes.
So let's have Angel first and finish with Carlos.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no problem.
Let me just say a word. Let me just say a word about Angel Martinez, is Deputy Artistic Director of the Bread is Rising Poetry Collection as it celebrates 26 years, and he's a member of the New York City Revolutionary Poets Brigade. Angel Martinez.
Yes, thank you. Lucy Parsons Overture. A song can only tell the story of one Lucy Parsons, written in a suite of revolutionary movements. If 1,000 rioters could not cause the fear of this warrior, let our own struggle for freedom fearlessly rise. How many hours have we fought so far for an 8-hour day? Workers in a class all their own. She knew no compromise. She knew acts of state terror at Haymarket. And every time she spoke out against the state of terror built on wage slavery, her book has many missing pages. Yet I believe she'd rather we take action, not walk out, but take over. She used her hands to defend life from Haymarket to Southborough as the unemployed march to this day, hungry and poor. Why this wicked? We answer her call against the boss. Never monthly fear, and neither does God. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, but you know, the sound was a bit staccato. So can we all mute ourselves if we haven't now, so that for Carlos Raul Duffler, who will be the last reader, he's a founder and artistic director of the Bread is Rising poetry collective as it celebrates 26 years, and he's the Beat Poet Laureate for New York City and a member of the New York City RPB. So welcome, Carlos Raul Duffler.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much. I feel honored. This is something that I wrote in the 60s when I was a young man, child. So the unsung heroes of the Poor People's Campaign, the long march continues. The distant memories poured in from the 60s inside of the belly of the beast. The horrors of savage capitalism that surrounded our lives, Doro, Esau, apartheid, which defends fascism as repression, the mass of colonialism, of violence, of sickness and hunger, the denial of human rights and justice for a holy man. A quote from Malcolm X, show me a capitalist and I will show you a bloodshed. We were generations guided with love and peace and freedom now, marching for peace and justice and democracy. Let a new world rise and let a new world be born on the ashes of an uncivilized society. Let the future be written for the people and not the privileged few.
Hey, let's give it up, let's give it up. What our drivers? What is your name? David?
When some friends invited me to listen and hear Martin Luther King Jr. at the Riverside Church, forgive me because I'm in a bus coming back from the march on the Freedom Ride. At the Riverside Church, we sat down surrounded by thousands of people.
Wait a minute. Carlos.
A direct home when he spoke, a time to break our silence beyond Vietnam. It hit a direct home for many sons of the working class who were suffering. It was a heavy toll on body bags sent back to the colonies around the country. A bitter moment of weeping mothers that they would never see their sons again. The train of peace rolled on that spring mobilization against the war in Vietnam. We gathered at the Central Park Bandshell on April the 15th of 1967. Martin Luther King and David Dillinger and many others spoke on the effects of the war on peace. A bright light shined when we were marching in front of the United Nations when the rally was, and we were singing, "Hey, LBJ, hey, LBJ, how many children did you kill today?" But all things come on time when LBJ dropped out for his second time as president. 8 months passed when Dr. Martin Luther King and Miriam Wright Edelman and Stanley Levinson and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference staff, the Poor People's Campaign was born. It was a beautiful moment for the richest of the earth. Again, Martin Luther King invited the Committee of 100 with the most exploited representatives of the poor workers in the country, indigenous, Black, Puerto Rican, poor whites from the Appalachians, and our allies. The national oppressed people were rejoiced when they proclaimed an economical bill of rights, struggling against the boundless greed. To bring 9 caravans from the Long March to Washington without demand. So when Martin Luther King and the staff of the SCLC and solidarity with the sanitation workers to march to Washington, D.C. to the seat of power, the enemies of humanity struck a brutal assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King at 6:01, April the 4th of 1968. Of 1968. I saw it with my own eyes. The people rebelled, over 100 went in flames. 3 weeks later, the SCLC had a meeting and elected Ralph Abernathy as president of the Poor People's Campaign, and they will go forward. A month passed, and Coretta King, led by the Mother's Day March in Washington, D.C., with 5,000 women down the half-torn city with a rally with the National Welfare Rights and the New York Welfare Rights Association to restore the benefits that were cut to child care and Head Start and food sampling and end the war in Vietnam. The time was right when the New York headquarters of the Poor People's Embassy and the Poor People's Campaign hit the pavement, organizing all over the city with rallies and community meetings. People were calling on to join when I joined. The time was coming when the Northern Caravan arrived from Boston to pick us up as we gathered in 142nd Street and 7th Avenue, marching down to meet the East Harlem Puerto Rican contingent, marching down Fifth Avenue to rally at the Bandshell at Central Park. To hear Cornbread Gibbons, Gilberto Helena Valentin, and president of the SCLC, Ralph Abernathy. And to listen to the music of Kilpatrick and listen to the music that everybody has the right to live. That we will be marching down to Washington, D.C. and Jimmy Collins saying, "Burn, baby, burn." People jumped out of their seats right in the band shell. That there was a large banner that Columbia strikers were supporting the Poor People's Campaign. The rally ended and time was now to board the buses for the long march to D.C. We were 500 people from the New York contingent. Many of us, or most, were from the progressive movement. Along the way, we stopped, picked up and had dinner and rested and had rallies in Newark and Trenton and Camden and Philadelphia and Wellington, Delaware, and Baltimore. Soon we arrived after 9 days with 1,000 people of the Northeastern Caravan on the grounds of West Potomac Park. I just came from there right now. On the grounds of West. Soon they dropped us off from the bus and we formed a 3-man committee. We were putting A-frame houses every 15 minutes with the permission and celebration of our Indian people to resurrect the city. We were a city of hope where we called each other brothers and sisters. It didn't matter where you came from. No landlords, no police brutality, no jail. It belonged to all of us. We were a secular city. We built a mural, which is called the 100 Wall. Tell it like it is with our artwork. America, break the wall. Love is beautiful and hatred is ugly. Love the Vietcong, Cuba Libre, Viva Che. Freedom for the poor people and our planet. Somebody from Ethiopia. We the meat shall inherit the earth when we stop being meat. Viva Comunismo and Brother Mao. Love Malcolm and love para la vida. Revolution or la revolution. Sisters of what? For human dignity. We had a city hall where the SLC anointed Jesse Jackson. But our mayor was Reed by the people. Chief Big Snake by the people. We had our own zip code. The Coretta King Scott King Daycare Center. We had the freedom, the free general store, the Diggers, God's Eyes Bakery, free bread forever, give us this day. A freedom school, a tent, food center, a health, a dental center, our own newspaper, Truth and Unity News. No matter what your religion or philosophy is, let's unite. Mano a mano in the spirit of Resurrection City. Since the beginning of our 9th caravan, we were under mass surveillance by state security, denying our right to assemble, freedom of speech, violence against us, denying our civil rights to protest our government. This was in 1968. LBJ, Ramsey Clark, and J. Edgar Hoover, and the Dixiecrats and the Republicans in Congress. We were marching for our life, that everybody had the right to live. For food, for housing, for health care, for health stars, for a living wage, for an end of police brutality and an end to apartheid and breaking relations with South Africa, and Indian treaty rights, an end to the war and bilingual education. When the climate of fear was waiting for that moment, they invaded Resurrection City on that early morning of June 23. When the Metropolitan Police, the National Guard, tear gassed us, bulldozed, burned our houses, brutalized the children, mothers, senior citizens who were peaceful people. Over 300 people were arrested and sent to jail and to rape. July. It gave me a real life understanding that the struggle is long and the people united will never be defeated. And to a new world will rise with peace, with love, with freedom and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Chapter.
bravo,
Thank you
bravo,
for the time.
bravo, bravo, bravo. But yeah, what a beautiful way to end this beautiful reading. Carlos, thank you very much. That was terrific. And terrific readings on the part of all the poets who read today. I bid you well, and let's go on with the struggle. Don't forget that there is going to be a live reading of the anthology and another poem that you might want to read on a live at Specs on Sunday, July 18th at 7 o'clock. And if Luis Felipe and Sandro Sardella wants to come from Portugal and Italy, they can join us in Specs. Bravo, bravo. Ciao, ciao to all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Really wonderful.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Really wonderful.
Great.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Grazie. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Ciao, Jack.
Thank you, everybody.